First things first, let's go ahead and share that to social media. Make sure everybody knows what's going on. Give it time to get some people in here. So go ahead and share the link in the Facebook page once it comes up.
All right.
All right, let's have us some fun today. All right,
It's choppy, Mike.
all right, how was it now?
Yeah, better.
All right, cool. First and foremost, good morning, good morning. Anybody
Evening,
out there in
evening.
Cyberspace, how you doing today? You know what? For those of us that work overnight, you understand it's morning time for us. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Extraordinary Men podcast.
Oh, there he is.
Fellas,
What's going on, Dean?
not much, man. Been a day.
I'm upset I can't find my light. I set my audience in the background. My
I need some more light. I need to put some more light on. It's not enough.
We definitely need to make sure that you ain't choppy over there.
We move it over here. I moved the settings. Probably more lighting over here. A little bit. Is that better?
everybody that's as a spectator, otherwise,
That's better.
please make sure to wipe your feet, aka share the link. Got a lot to talk about. Got a little bit of time.
Better lighting here.
Yeah, you cool, Dean.
All right.
Yeah, you good right there.
Foremost, this is episode 3 of Extraordinary Men. Welcome to anybody and everybody who's tuning in to the podcast, the visual component of the Extraordinary Men podcast. I am your host, Michael Jones, aka Phil Jones, for those who know me professionally. And introduce yourself to the panel. We'll go to my right, Mr. Merritt.
What's going on, everybody? Facebook, Instagram, all of the different platforms is out there. I am Michael Merritt. I am an IT contract fulfillment specialist. My company, Nerdy Nerds, we handle a lot of different variety of IT solutions, from security cameras to drive-through systems to fire panels, you name it. Right now, as I stated last episode, we are knocking down a real big project for Portillo's, redoing all of their drive-through systems, and then we also have a contract with the city of Waukegan, swapping out all of the fire panels throughout the various businesses in Waukegan, Illinois. You can also check out my website, nerdynerds.com. That is spelled with a Z, not an S. And then you can also check out nerdyshirty.com. That is SHRTY. Do not add an I. You will get a different website.
And then the legend himself. Introduce yourself, sir.
What up, y'all? Facebook, Instagram. I'm Kadeem Bourne. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an artist. I'm not gonna go down the list of things that I do, but I'm happy to be here. Y'all gonna see me here for a long time.
So first things first, our panel and people that you see that are reoccurring members of our panel, they have been down with the operation since we started back in August of 2021. So you may see some faces come in and out based on whatever they have going on in their lives personally and professionally. However, all of these gentlemen have been a fundamental piece of what we are building here at the Extraordinary Men, and they embody the qualities that we feel are some of the better qualities that we're trying to put. Getting tongue tied. That we're trying to push as far as men who get up, who work, who strive for better, who don't accept mediocrity as a method of operation. So thank you guys for joining into the podcast today, as always, and let's begin. So first things I want to talk about is last week. We're going to go ahead and recap what we did last week. For those who didn't catch it, you could also catch episode 2 on YouTube, various other social media platforms, in the Facebook group called The Extraordinary Men. You can catch it there. And there's various other places that it's posted. I'll go ahead and make sure those links are available. So what we talked about last week was we talked about the tiers of value when it comes down to men. One of the concepts that we spoke about was the fact that when it comes to men and how we rank ourselves, we don't really have a problem identifying when someone has a skill set or someone has a specific strength that is better than ours. We actually look to other men and we admire it. If you see a man that is very well put together physically, it's something that inspires you to say, I'm going to get in the gym and I need to get my weight up. Or you see somebody that's driving the car that you want to drive. It's like we don't really delve a lot into hate unless we're just that lower tier of man that can't get motivated, but then find loathing and envy in other people's success. That's not what we represent or embody on this side of the calendar. So, Mike, do you want to go ahead and discuss what those 5 tiers were that we discussed last week?
Yeah, so we had the high value man. We had the man on the rise. We had the stagnant man. Then we had what was before the stagnant? I'm sorry. And then we had the low tier man.
And then there's the man on decline.
The man on decline, and then the low tier man.
So when we look at what is the popular thought process, a lot of conversations pertain to what people consider high value men to be. So that seems to be the big talking point, where this select group of a small microcosm of men who are the most highly competitive, the highest earners, the most influential, so to speak, and the desire of wanting to embody those elements. And some people, otherwise don't necessarily care for them, but that's neither here nor there. So where I wanted to go with this week specifically is, after reviewing these concepts of what men generally have to offer, what I want to do is I want to start shedding some layers of understanding when it comes down to what it's like to be competitive, what it's like to see opportunity, what drives, what motivates, what gets you up in the morning to start striving for better when it comes down to what you want. I think that this concept is very influential, not just to men, but also to the women who actually value their men, to understand what makes us motivate. So I want to start with you, Kadeem. In layman's term, what gets you up in the morning? What motivates you? What is the single thing that made you look and say, this isn't for me, I'm going to go to the next level?
Well, first and foremost, my son, and giving him the opportunity of choice when he gets older. I don't want him to have to go through a lot of the pitfalls and a lot of the things that we had to learn that, we didn't get passed down to us. I don't want him to go through that. So that's what gets me up every day, around 4 or 5 o'clock. And the fact that I don't like anyone being in control of my money. Like, I don't know, that it irks me, especially if it's not a substantial amount, I don't like it. I don't like the idea of it. I just, I don't like it. But yeah, that's what motivates me, man. That one single thing is every day, and I'm up, for my son.
So, Mike, let's take it to you. What is the motivating factor that gets you up every day? What is the thing that, when you are tired, when you're whatever the circumstance, insert situation here, that keeps your motor going?
When you need to insert like 5-hour energy drinks. What motivates me and keep me going, man, is the fact that I want to see my business thrive. Period. What motivates me is being able to kind of like bouncing off Kadeem, is I want to be able to provide, saying my daughters and my son opportunities that I didn't have or wasn't introduced to or afforded the ability to get introduced to or get involved with. Also to pass on information that was never given to me, and to hopefully help them be able to increase their investments and increase their net worth and their value and things of that nature. Um, I think my business for sure is kind of like the forefront. That's the main factor. It's my baby. Saying you never want to see your baby fail. So that's my biggest motivational drive.
Good. I like that. What gets me up every day and what keeps me motivated and keeps me driven is probably a little different than most people. Is the fact that I like just the sheer aspect of being competitive. I like having access to things. I enjoy knowing that if I go to my bank account and I say I want a new car, I can just go get it.
Mm-hmm.
I like having a credit score to say that if I desire to have something, that I can just go get it. If I'm not satisfied with this chain, I just want to go walk in the store and slide a card and just go get me a massive chain, then I have access to do it. Not saying that I want to do it, but if I chose to do it, I have the access. I love the idea of having access. I don't like restrictions.
And I think that comes full circle around what Kadeem was just talking about with your money and being restricted. Like entrepreneurialism is great. It's fantastic. It definitely has his pros, its perks. Definitely a shit ton of cons. But the fact that I ain't in control of my dollar amount, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to worry about an establishment dictating what my earning potential is based on the type of position that I'm in or the title that I hold or the type of work that I'm doing. I dictate how much I'm worth. And I dictate how much you're going to pay me. And if you don't like my price, kick rocks. And I love being able to tell people that.
Kadeem, you in the transportation business. So you may have a little bit more experience in this specific sector. That, if I'm not mistaken, there's a portion of your business that is consistent with having a bid for jobs. So there's a price that's thrown out, or an initial price that's thrown out, or maybe not even a price that's thrown out. That is like hey, here is such and such job to do this, that, and the third. What would you charge to do it? Do you feel that style of earning motivates you because you get a chance to negotiate your price for your time?
Yeah, like where I'm at now is cool, and it's because once you put the work in, then you can kind of negotiate your prices because they know they're gonna get it done. And in most cases, when they offer you something, you can get more money. But a lot of people take what they're given, and that's just not me. If you tell me 200, I know you could pay me 275 or 250. So, I like the idea of it to an extent, and I also like the idea of setting your price. Because when you set your price, you're getting exactly what you're asking for, and it's so it's both pros and cons to it. But I don't mind that. I don't mind negotiating.
Well, the one thing that I wanted to point out is, like, as far as the concept of exchanging time for dollars. Recently, I started looking into something like Uber Eats and these other companies and stuff. So where you look at it to where right now, with me being a full-time student and working full-time, one of the things that I really started to look at is that that hour and a half that I was spending in the grocery store, running from this place to that place, trying to find certain things, there's a whole system that's set up for people that are willing to do that for me in exchange for a fixed amount, which will buy me back 2 hours to be more productive in the things that matter to me most. When you really start wrapping your mind around that, you start thinking to yourself, like, how far can you take this concept of exchanging time for dollars? Where are we at in a world to where we're exchanging time for dollars for a fixed rate that no matter how grand or how small the task is, that is this price for your time? One thing that I was pointing out to a friend of mine the other day, and I'm gonna break this down to you guys. You look at whatever amount of money that you make. Like right now, I make X amount of dollars. So I'm going to bring the calculator up and I'm going to show you guys a math equation. I want everybody who's tuning in, pay attention to this math equation.
Is this the income math equation?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I broke this down to them, anybody who knows that I have an extensive history in math, yes, I'm a nerd, get with it. It helps. But once I broke this equation down to him, he was so shocked to realize what it was that he was actually doing. Now, let me bring this up on the screen. Okay. So for whatever reason, the program doesn't let me bring up the screen. However, I'll go ahead and I'll give you the numbers and anybody can follow along. So let's just say you made $100,000 a year, correct? That's our number, our nice six-figure number.
That's the goal.
That's the goal, right?
That's the goal.
So everybody's listening. I need you to follow along very clear with what I'm saying. So let's just say that that was the amount of money that you were making. And because of the fact that the unknowns like raises and incentives, we don't know. So let's just say that that's the fixed finite number that we're working with. At the $100,000, and let's just say, okay, I'm 36. I want to retire by the time I'm 65. So we're going to multiply that times 29 years. What I've just said at that point in time is that my time at gross between now and the next 30 years, I've just committed to the idea that my life, the next 30 years of my life, is worth $2.9 million. That's not including taxes. That's not including what you take out for retirement savings, health insurance, whatever else that you have. That is literally saying that I'm exchanging my next 29 years for $2.9 million. So now imagine if I walked up to anybody here who was living by that metric and I said, I will give you $2.9 million cash right now in exchange for the next 30 years of your life. Would you take
it? They wouldn't. They wouldn't.
Anybody that's tuning in, that's watching this in the chat, I want you guys to chime in on that. If I exchange $2.9 or $3 million cash money for the next 30 years of your life, would you take it?
They wouldn't, because you just unveiled the scam.
Yeah.
When you think about how much money we're talking about, right? The average person graduates high school about age 18. The average person retires around 65, which gives you about 47 working years. You don't really reach your peak earning potential until you're in your 30s. So you got about 17, 18 years of
It depends.
Get it right time.
It depends on the occupation. Sometimes you won't peak until 45.
Well, nonetheless, regardless of what the circumstances are, you don't peak until later in life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to give you about 10, 20 years of trying to get it right. Because then we lost you on the camera. So when you think about this metric and you start asking yourself, like, wait a minute, that's all I'm selling my life for?
So Juan, So sorry, Mike, but Juan.
Good.
So I don't know if you saying I will right now to take in the 2.9 mil.
Well,
I think
that's
that's
because
what you saying.
because he's 60, so he's at the tail end of his career.
Okay,
he
so
said, "You give me-"
let's just say he's in that late 20, early 30 mark area. Are you gonna take the 2.9 mil right now? And for the next 30 years, you owe me servitude?
Well, it's hard to say when you already in that age bracket, because now it's just like, hey, you give me $2.9 million, whatever. Like, but
See?
yeah, of course,
All
no way.
right.
Now, see, the thing is that with Juan specifically, Juan comes from a catering background. Like, he did not work a traditional job until as of recent.
He don't count.
But that's
He's a boss. He don't count.
But that's not the point. What I'm saying with this is you have to really look at a situation. He's able right now. So what happens is a lot of times what we don't wrap our mind around is the long game. So we're making decisions, and we're doing the things that we're doing, and we're saying like, yo, I want to work myself up this company. I want to do this. I want to do this. If you're making $40,000-$50,000 a year and you're exchanging your life for $40,000-$50,000 a year, you have to understand that metric that I just gave you guys that was just like, ugh, look at that, was for 100K. So imagine what 50, 60 is. Anybody can do this metric. When you decide that you're ready to sit down from the traditional workforce, where you're exchanging time for dollars, it's not including the time that you went to school to earn the skill or to get the degree or whatever have you in order to qualify to get those earnings. Then the student loans that you have to pay back is also coming out of that $3 million. Everything else is coming out of that. So like literally you're almost living in reverse, because everything that you strive for, you're spending the next so many years paying it back. Because you got to think about it, that after the health insurance and the taxes and the dental and everything that's taken out of it, and whatever you're contributing to your retirement savings, whatever have you, you still have to pay for the house out of that net. You still have to pay for your cars out of that net. Mm-hmm. How your children are going to school more than likely is going to come out of that net. Mm-hmm. Your leisure expenses for you to just get your mind off of the fact that you're working for the next 30, 40 years comes out of that net pay. So in exchange for time for dollars, and the reason why I was concerned about the competitive aspect of men is that we understand that you don't become a CEO by chance. You don't just walk into $1 million opportunities just by sitting still and just waiting. I'm just going to gradually work myself up the ladder. I don't know a lot of CEO stories of people who started off as the cashier and worked their way up to the top.
I don't know any either.
I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm saying I have not. I haven't heard enough.
You don't hear these stories.
I haven't heard enough of these stories. Well, the thing is that
it's not
the NBA.
Like that's rare.
People in the NBAs, people in the fraternities, people who are hooked up in certain organizations who get themselves linked up and connected with other groups of people who are in positions to pull strings or to maneuver. The one thing I know about a glass ceiling is that a glass ceiling is only contingent off of how much access you do or don't have. So the next question I'm going to ask you guys, and I'll open this up and anybody can speak as they see, is the fact that what have you learned about networking and access over the course of the last several years that has opened up your eyes to more opportunities that you didn't know prior to being LinkedIn?
You definitely need to start shaking hands, bumping elbows, and kissing babies, like real talk. You really need to, and I like to use the term rich dad. A rich dad is basically somebody that is way more further advanced in their entrepreneur journey than you, that can kind of coach you and guide you and, kind of push you along. You need a bunch of those to kind of, help push you along and kind of put you in the right direction of where you're trying to go. And any rich dad will work. Because at the end of the day, business is business, and it doesn't matter where the dollar come from. You know what I'm saying? There's a business system behind it to bring that dollar in, and anybody can help kind of coast you in that right direction that you need to go. So somebody selling Snickers for a living can definitely show you how to sell soap. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you need to package it like this. Make sure, make the bubbles look like this and blah, 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 blah. So don't sell yourself short by not soaking up as much gain as possible. And you also need to recognize when you in class. Everybody is not finna just sit down with you and be like, hey, look, check this out. Listen, they just gonna talk and it's just gonna fly because that's their personality. So you yourself, you need to be keen and sharp and recognize when you being spit some game. So that's the best piece of advice I can throw at you.
What you think, Kadeem?
Networking it should be a part of your day to day. Like it should, like what Mike said, having a mentor is super important. But having a bunch of mentors is what takes you to to the whole next level, because one person could introduce you to this person that can introduce you to the next person, and it doesn't stop. As long as your focus is to build actual relationships with people, relationships that where you guys can actually reciprocate things. It's super important, like on every level, like so I live by it. I always try to introduce myself to everybody, like, and I don't judge anyone by how they look, because you'll be surprised. The people with the most money are the most simple dressed people, and I know that's something that in our culture it's like it's at the forefront of of things, but I realize that it doesn't work that way. Once the zeros get past 6, it's a different type of time. So
You said something that you hit on a milestone without even realizing what you did. The word culture. First and foremost, let's look up the word culture.
I like definitions.
So what?
I said I like looking stuff up.
All right, so let's get in here and let's look up the word culture, shall we? All right, so I know my screen might be small, so just work with me. So the definition of culture, number 1, the arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. Number 2, the customs, arts, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social group. How does that tie into what we're talking about today? We start regarding the concept of culture. What we have to take into consideration of a very, very simple concept is the fact that culture plays a lot into the reason why people win and the reason why people lose as a collective. So if the culture regards more of what they can physically see versus what is behind the scenes, we're already doing it wrong. So if you have status symbols that are based on material things that can depreciate in value, we're already doing it wrong. So as you just stated, that in this culture, it's a lot about the visual, the flash, the how things appear. We can pinpoint any other community that are doing more than us as far as having their own hospitals, restaurants, having their own, you name it, insert institution here. And you can pinpoint these things. And everybody is kind of aware that these other groups have access to these things. So I don't want to go too far off into the nuances of this culture versus that culture. What I do want to help you understand is you're absolutely right in the sense of identifying the fact that there's some problems. And networks are built by linking with like-minded people. But wealth is accumulated by people with like-minded that share a cultural value with you. Because you could be very talented, and I can be from another culture, and I can eat off you, no problem. But if we have a cultural understanding and we are like-minded at the same time, it's more of a let's build together for each other than it is a let me build off of you and take from you. And you can look at sports, entertainment of any type, that the gatekeepers of the culture are not from the culture of the people who draw in the money. And what happens? We find ourselves in a situation where people go broke. Like Mike, remember the sports analogy that we were talking? Was I having a conversation with you about the sports people? Do me a favor. I want you to look up.
Not sure.
I want you to look up the average career span of an NFL player.
All right.
Yes, look that up real quick and share that with us, please.
All right.
My bad, fellas. I'm gonna be muting this camera and blowing my nose a lot. I'm still kind of under the weather.
It's quite all right. It's like again, this is a man's space for where you could be how you need to be as long as it's within reason.
Yeah, you know I ain't gonna be blowing my big ass nose on this camera. Though. I'm gonna let you know that now.
All right.
All right. So according to Statista and ESPN, the average year is 3.3 years.
Really?
78% of players go broke after that, like 2 to 3 years after they retire.
So I want y'all to listen to what he just said. A little under 4 years of actual gameplay.
Yeah.
And then within 2 to 3 years after they're out of the league,
78% go broke.
78% of them go broke. You know what happens? Your agent more than likely isn't from your culture. They're going to collect that 10%, 15% or whatever the fee is off top. The lawyer more than likely isn't from your culture. Going to take what it is off top. A lot of the people who are the embodiments of talent are not coming from a culture of a household culture to where people know what's going on as far as finance, as far as investment, as far as, hey, listen, you have this unique skill that's going to earn you a lot of money, but just in case, get your degree. Just in case things don't work out, let's go sit you down with a financial plan and budget out your money to ensure. No, first thing that you do coming from certain cultures is, I need to buy my mama a house. Then I got these cousins that come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, cousins. I got to take care of Big Mama. I got to take, yeah, man.
The homies.
Hold on a second. Y'all seeing the concept, say, I'm just here to say I love y'all building each other. I'm going to head out. Thank you so much for that comment.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Absolutely appreciate it.
Man,
it's a beautiful thing when you see women who can acknowledge that what we're doing has power to it. And this is the reason why we're here. I love that. Now I'm going to keep it going. So when you start having this conversation, now we're talking about these athletes. You just mentioned that entertainers was 3.7 years.
Yeah, technically, an NFL player is an entertainer. So yeah, 3.3 years is an average time of expected gameplay or expected time in the NFL, and then 2 to 3 years after that, 78% go broke.
So I want you to wrap this window around, right? I'm gonna wrap another layer around this. You have this many people that actually make it to the league out of this many people that think that they're going to be the next big prospect.
Right.
So let's just say we're going to use 1,000 people. Statistically, you might get 4%. So let's just say 40 of that 1,000 may actually make it to the league. They might not all be top draft picks either. So they're not all getting a big check or a huge signing bonus when they walk in. So your first round, maybe some of your second round might actually do well. Then you start looking at it like you see the LeBron Jameses, the Stephen Currys, and the certain players who are the top echelon, the most marketable. But you don't think about the fact that the majority of people don't do that well. What was that? Who was it? Antoine Walker that went broke? I think he had like 110 million or something and went broke.
Signed on a dotted line, signed by the ex like Malcolm. 110 mil, lost it.
So, I mean, the whole thing about it is that the culture concept, you worked so hard to cultivate a skill that's going to earn you a great deal of money in this much time. So remember how early in the conversation we were talking about exchanging for that $100,000 a year mark. You got $100,000 a year and you're going to earn $3 million over 30 years, 2.9 for 29 years, whatever the metric. Now, this person just got 10 million in 3 years. And then he's going to go broke, possibly, still according to statistics, 2 to 3 years after he retires from the league. Then he'll never be able to go back into sports to amass that much wealth again, because he may be out for injury, he may be out for mental issues, jail, whatever the circumstances may be that took him out of the league.
Body just can't take it all together, period.
Or just can't find a team to pick you up because you're a bust. I mean, whatever the circumstances may be, now you've amassed this much money in this little time and you have no skills outside of that thing that you did. So now here you go. Here's where we are. It's the same situation where you're exchanging time for dollars, except you're exchanging this much time for this much dollars. But then for this amount of time, there's too much shame to go get a 9 to 5. You might have a couple baby mamas under your belt. You might have a bunch of expenses because I'm paying for a house for these people, I'm leasing a house in Miami. I got a house in New York. I got this, I got that. And now as the money stops coming in, those expenses don't stop coming in.
Yep.
So we have to look at things and put it into perspective that when we're talking about the concept of competitiveness, nobody is more competitive than an athlete because we know the space is this small. So just to get in the door, that's not even including to be a Kobe, to be a top echelon version. We're just talking about just to get in the door, just to get somebody looking at you is already a hard fight. So look at the business world that we in, the climate, as far as us being men, is the fact that our worlds are driven by being the most confident, competent, capable, and competitive that we can possibly be in order to secure a life for our families. Mediocrity is not an option in the world of men.
Thanks.
So, Kadeem, based on what I just said and based on the information that was just presented, how does that make you think about the world that you live in currently as an entrepreneur?
It's one of those things. It is what it is. Because it's just like me having a business and somebody over there got the same business. Not saying I want that person to fail, but I know that I want to get business too. So I automatically think, how can I be better than them or get more customers than they can? And that's just, it's American entrepreneurship. Like I guess it comes innate, with this entrepreneurial life that we chose. Is like, it's not something, when you break it down like that, it's like, wow, but it's like, I'm in it. So it's just, it is what it is. You feel me? So I'm gonna compete. I'm a competitor. That's just what that's just what it is. You know what I'm saying?
So, Mike, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't remember which rapper exactly said it, but he said something along the lines of the drug game. I didn't choose the drug game chose me. It's kind of like that same mindset over here where business life chose me. It chased after me, and I just grabbed a hold of it. But just like the drug game, I ain't gonna lie to you, Kadeem, I ain't with all that sharing space. I'm rough. You know, if I can't acquire your business, then I'm definitely going to make sure that no one sees your business. There's going to be ads everywhere. I'm never ever going to dog your business. I never do that. I don't play like that. But when it comes to competitiveness with adverts and trying to acquire customers, acquire other businesses to shop with you and gain contracts and win contracts, at the end of the day, I need my family to eat. So if we can't, if there's no partnership that we can band together and work some out where you do tablets and then I do phones, and then when you get overran, and now you send me work, and then when I get overran, I say, if it ain't nothing like that, then it's war, basically. You know, ain't no bloodshed, but that's what business is. You know, Apple and Samsung is fighting all the time, and then Apple again fighting with Microsoft all the time. It is what it is. You got T-Mobile. T-Mobile was fighting with Sprint, then they turn around and bought them. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it is. It's a constant war of competition of which company is the better strategist and who can put a bigger score up on the board.
Touche.
I mean, with all honesty, it's like this is the nature of the beast.
It is.
And a lot of times we have to understand that on an individual level and on the community level, we're fighting for material resources. There's only so much. Like I had told somebody this, and it's like I tried to put something on their mind. Let's just say everybody wanted macaroni one day. Everybody was going into Walmart. We walk in, we see a million choices just sitting right there. And it's like, oh man, that's a million selections. But what happens if from the time they open to the time they close, everybody's got the same mindset? They go in, grab a box, go. Somebody go in, grab 2 boxes, they go. And then you get there at about 5 in the afternoon, 5 in the evening, whatever have you. Hey man, there ain't no macaroni and cheese here. There's nothing on the shelf. It starts to make you think about how finite resources actually are. You start to really wrap your mind around the fact that those who get up early usually get the best benefits. Those who actually make moves on stuff early, that don't wait, that don't procrastinate, that have a plan and a plan on top of a plan, the backup plan for the backup plan, they normally do better because you're in a game to where you're trying to acquire resources. The way to acquire resources is to outthink the popular think. Right now, any single man, you want the best woman to bring into your situation. So to get the best women, you have to have the best offer. If you don't have the best offer, you don't get the best women, period. It's never been that way since the beginning of time. You want to drive the best car? You can't walk in the lot talking about I make $50,000 a year, saying like, "Hey man, let me go get that McLaren or that Aston Martin." You can't even walk in.
Mm-hmm. Appointment only.
Right.
You know, so there's things that you have to wrap your mind around when it comes down to the fact that being competitive by nature is a mixture of understanding what's at stake and what do you deem is worth fighting for. What is your fight? So when we started off talking about what a man's motivation is and what gets him up and what gets him going. And as I told you guys, I like access. I enjoy the thought of knowing that if I wanted it, I can go get it. I think that the most important thing that we have to come to the realization of is the fact that there may not always be access. So that what's the most valuable resource that we have?
Time.
So because of the fact that our most valuable resource is time, number one, we have to maximize on our time. As I get older, I'm getting less physically capable than I was in my late teens and early 20s. So when you start feeling your body doing certain things, I need to start figuring out how do I make more money off of this and less off of this.
Mm-hmm.
That's the goal. Then I need to start learning how to utilize the skills that I've acquired over time to create other streams of revenue that will make sure that I'm not broke when I'm getting too old to do this and I'm getting too worn out up here to do this. So now let me ask this question. I really want you guys to think about it before y'all answer. What is the most important milestone that you plan to accomplish prior to retirement?
The most important, no?
The number one most important. So I mean, again, you getting up and you working, you competing for all of this business and everything like that. Okay,
Right.
so what is it for?
I can only bring this, full circle back around to my little ones, man. I got this goal now, to, before they graduate high school, each one, that I want them to have a portfolio of at least, 3 to 4 houses of their own in their own portfolio. I don't know if that's honestly like the main goal, but I know that's a huge one that I have.
I mean, it's a goal wrapped in a goal. Obviously, you want them to make sure that they have assets.
Yes.
What about you, Kadeem?
Of course, this isn't like the main milestone, but I want to be able to make the amount of money needed to sustain life, to enjoy life, and to be present for my son and my kids to come all the time, and be able to make money in my sleep. So, and I have a self-sustaining business and not have to be present. That is a major milestone of mine, business-wise. Like, that's what I'm shooting towards. That's my goal and my my objective.
Yeah. I don't know if any of you guys ever heard of Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm sure y'all have.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I know he's not the father of this term, but at the same time, we all know that term "FU money," right?
Yeah, that's Dan Locke. He got a book called "FU Money."
Whoever the father of the terminology, we'll give them the best do. But with that, just the whole concept of understanding that, being able to say, you know what, I'm taking a day off. I'm taking a week off. I'll take a vacation and I don't have to worry about how I'm going to pay my bills this month. Hey, I'm going to take my kids camping. I want to go see the world.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about it. You get less concerned about things like where your kids go to school when you're in control of their financial destiny. You get less concerned about trying to push a narrative or even put on you get less concerned about a lot of things when you know that you can control the financial destiny for your children, for your family. I can tell you now that it's like, when my savings account is like this, I walk with a different air. You feel good. When that credit score first hit that 720 for the first time, I'm like, oh, really? So this is how they treat you.
It feels great for anybody that want to know.
So when you
it's
first
Tony the Tiger great.
Okay.
I'm coming, fellas.
You said what?
I said I'm coming. I'm getting there, fellas.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that you have to wrap your mind around. That it's like, it's not that difficult of a thing to wrap your mind around. That conceptually, you want to look at everything as what it is. That Credit unlocks certain things and make them available to you. There's some things that just having an abundance of cash just don't unlock the doors for.
It unlocks everything, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Credit unlocks everything, man. It does.
And sometimes no down payment, period.
Yeah,
They go the keys. Wow.
definitely does.
Say, I have a new milestone for you. I can answer each was of your questions, but you know me.
Well, yeah, he's a chef, so he put mild, like mild sauce.
Give me a few days.
I mean, my thing is that when we get to a place to where we start really identifying the fact that, like, man, say, give me a few days. I'm gonna hold you to that one. I'm holding you to that.
Yeah, we hold people accountable here in this platform, man. We definitely do.
So one of those things that I really start looking at and just asking myself, like, what is it all for? Why are you getting up working your off day every week? Why? What are you doing it for? Why are you giving 6 days a week to this? Well, because of the fact that I have to finance the next part of what I'm doing. So I was very clear. When I went back to school, I said, I'm not paying for this. Somebody gonna pay for this. I don't know who, I don't know what, I don't know how, but I'm not paying a dime for school. That's the post. Like, I'm not.
Well, how did it happen?
Well, what happens is you start looking at things that you didn't really know was available to you. You ask yourself, like, okay, well, what is this scholarship thing over here that you just not paying attention to? It's like, all right, well, I'm in my 30s. You automatically start trying to convince yourself that all the opportunities are going to the young people. You don't even know the myriad of things that are actually available to you out here. That literally, I'm getting a scholarship based off of the fact that I'm a resident of a town where white people murdered a bunch of black people. So you hear about Tulsa, Oklahoma, you hear about Rosewood, you hear about a few of them, but I live in a town called Ocoee. In 1920, they burned every black person's house down in this very town for trying to vote. The first black person didn't return back to this town until 50 years later.
Damn.
Yeah, I know I just put all that extra bass in that when I said it. But these Black Wall Streets, they were everywhere. Central Park, Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Central Park was a big one.
Downtown Orlando.
Big one.
So these situations are not isolated situations. These were plans. It's just that certain people, Evanston, Illinois, where Northwestern University is, was either the first or the second people, or the first or second town, city, whatever, that said, we're going to do the right thing and give reparations to the people that got displaced from those lands.
That was a big thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Still slow moving, but you got to understand, I benefited directly from something, from an atrocity that happened that that I don't have a direct legacy to, as far as my family being of them. But because of the fact that I come from a group that this happened to collectively, I was able to reap the benefit of it.
I think that's fair.
So whether I got it from the state of Illinois or the city of Chicago, or whether I got it from anywhere, whether I got it from Puerto Rico, whether I got it from anywhere, no matter where I got it from, in exchange for education, I received a form of reparations. May not have been a direct cash benefit,
Yeah,
but
it
it
is.
put me back.
Yeah,
But
depending on how
Yeah,
you
it is. Because
what I'm saying is like it wasn't
your
a check
degree,
cash in hand.
your
But what it
degree.
was is
make
what it
some
was is something even more valuable.
Yeah.
Opened up the door to access to get it
Yeah.
for myself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that's how it happened. So when I said I wasn't paying for nothing, I paid for nothing.
Yeah, stood on it too.
But at the end of the day, these are the things that is like when you are in a competitive spirit, you are going to find opportunities where you don't think that they exist. You're going to delve through everything. You with the government contracting, whatever the circumstances may be, you're going to go find an opportunity. That's what we do. That's what is innate inside of us. And if we suppress that thing that makes us competitive, we are doing us and our future generations a disservice. So now, Kadeem, let me ask you something. Who is the most competitive man that you know?
Shit, I would have to say. Are you talking personally?
Personally, who's the most competitive man that you know?
And my cousin from New York.
Of course, somebody from New York, saying.
Yeah, facts. He from Queens too. Yeah, definitely my cousin. I've seen him grind his way from a vinyl cutter and a heat press to, you know, a multi-$1,000 machine. Like, you know, actually not even scratch the vinyl cutter and the heat press, from a paintbrush, painting on clothes, like with an idea, and just building up his company over the years to the point where he was able to sell me his embroidery machine because he just don't need it no more. So I think his competitive nature, his hustle, like he gotta be. He's that person for me. For sure.
Right.
Outside of me,
he's outside of you.
Okay.
And of course, we know you.
Definitely say my pops, man. My dad like knows a lot, you know. That old saying, jack of all trades. I don't remember the rest of it, but he's definitely proficient and efficient in everything that he's gained any type of knowledge or intelligence in, you know, whether it be electrical, whether it be plumbing, whether it be car repair, whether it be building decks. Right now, this man is building a house from the ground up. Right now. So to me, to capture all of these different industries and have all of that knowledge just dumped into one body, like he's dangerous. You know, he can switch to any industry and go get it and eat. It's not a problem to him.
You know the most competitive man I know is, and I hope you get a chance to see this live. Vision. Mark Wiley. I remember back in the day, he was airbrushing shirts for y'all performances. He used to be the airbrush king.
Mm-hmm.
Always did something in the arts. Go into tattooing, wedding films. Every time you've seen him doing something, he's always doing something of great magnitude. It's like literally you watch his progression from a teenager up until where he is currently. I would say he's probably been one of the most inspirational to a lot of us behind closed doors, just because of the fact that the consistency of what it is that he has done has. If there was any flaws or any fall off period, I don't know it. But to see where he is currently from where he started, every time I see him post something, it's a reflection of, man, I remember when that guy used to be this guy. And now look at him. Proud of that man. So in the spirit of competition, it's just like you have to think about it. Artistically, for every dude that I know that rap, 99.6% of them did not succeed because they were lazy. They were lazy. They were lazy with releases. I can't hear you, Kadeem. I know you're speaking. Are you speaking? People were lazy with releases, lazy with performances. They weren't honing in on their craft. They worried too much about who wasn't supporting them. They gave themselves every excuse under the sun. And again, that's just because of my background in music. I mean, that rule applies all over the board. But say I still run music across vids before I drop it. Excuse me, Mr. Green, you supposed to be in here. Yeah, I called you out. See what we told you about holding people accountable?
Yeah, facts.
Mr. Green, you supposed to be in here.
Facts.
Don't worry, I'm gonna deal with you when we get a chance to, young man. Nah, but realistically, one of those situations that I've noticed about a multitude of people is the fact that they get to a place to where that push through to the other end is missing. I have been that guy for so many years to where you'll get right about here and success is just on the other side and say, time to go back. Had enough. So I speak from experience, then I speak from a place of identifying these flaws in others. We're doing this that we're doing now with this platform as a means of understanding what comes from going through the other side. You build, you create, you continue to create, you trim away what doesn't work, you add another layer until you find out what does work, and you continue to build it until it becomes what you've been working toward. You wrap your mind around it. It's actually a very simple process. It's just time consuming. It's a lifelong journey. So, Midas, let me ask you this question. We'll start off here. When you actually look at where you started to where you are, what is the one thing that you would do in the mentor position that you see the next version of you that you would instill in them to help them jump the line or save a few years?
In what aspect?
So, for instance, I believe that the student becomes the teacher. I believe that that's just a part of the ascension. So once you actually acquire a mentee, if you haven't already, what would you tell that mentee or what would you instill into that mentee to say, it took me 10, 11 years to learn everything that I've learned. If you follow the steps that I give you, you can have everything I have and then some in half the time.
First things first, I definitely want to know if this individual is or isn't going to go to college, because I can definitely direct from there. So if you are going to college, from there, the advice that I would give that I didn't get was make sure that you find out who are the key people, the key students on that campus, befriend them. Because these people, your top chess players, it sounds awful, whatever. But these are the key people that's gonna be your top tier software engineers working for NASA and all these big ass fucking companies. These are the people that's gonna be able to get you indoors the way you're trying to go. That don't mean that you need to be a slouch. You need to make sure you on your shit too. Uh, so that would be step one if you are going to go to college. Step two would be to, if you are going on a business journey to run your own establishment, a company, you need to go ahead and put some time in to get a grasp of how a business should operate. What I mean is, if you ever heard of spook by the door, so you get in, learn the ropes. I wanted to do my business in IT, so I picked up IT jobs, Xerox, US Cellular. I was a tower specialist. So anytime that a tower went down or whatever, I was on the back end trying to figure out what the fuck went wrong with the software and all that and get it back up and running so your phones will work. Xerox, US Cellular, Office, was it Max? Yeah, Max. I was the head IT specialist for Office Max, where I would go store to store and set up all their servers and things like that. But in the midst of doing all that, I was learning how they manage their business, who talks to who, the process of chain of command, and inventory and things, that learning all these different aspects and bringing it home into running my establishment. So that's what I would recommend for step number two. Step number three, we already talked about it. More networking and network hard. Start learning or start bumping elbows, shaking hands, kissing babies, getting out there and doing what it is you need to do so people know who you are and can put a face to the name, and then put not only a face to the name, but a face and a name to the business. And of course, this is going down the entrepreneurial path. Everything else, I mean, it's kind of explained along the way with your whole, LLCs and things of that nature that comes into play. But I think those would be like kind of like the three big ones that I would give. And that would shave off a lot.
So, Kadeem, same question to you. If you could take on a mentee and you were to look at all that you had to do to get to where you are today, what would you instill into your mentee that will help them save time or to accomplish what you've accomplished in half the time? What would you give them?
First thing I would tell them is don't get on a bike unless he knows how to ride, first and foremost. But besides that, I think I would tell them to plan, but be ready for things to go the total opposite for what you plan for, but be prepared. Because I think if you have a projection and you know where you're going, everything that you may go through along the way becomes easier because you know where you're going and you already set up a system to keep heading in that direction. Because sometimes you come into roadblocks and you allow it to divert you onto something else and you forget what the goal was. So planning, you'll be able to map out the goals that you do have so you can stick to them even though they might change. But I think for me, that's what was, that's like the most important, because everything in my life has come full circle constantly. It's like over and over. No matter how much I've tried to do so many things, but everything has always come back full circle for me. And, I've seen that if I would have stuck to what I originally planned and the original goal, then I would have been okay after all. But not having a plan, it kind of you kind of don't know how to react, So that's what I would tell a mentor to avoid a lot of the mistakes that I made.
Yeah, I definitely would like to add with that whole, roadblocks, things of that nature, because you gonna hit them, and a roadblock, you got to remember that it's just a detour, and eventually you will get back on the right road that you need to be on. So I would say that you need to stay calm, especially when you have a fire and you need to extinguish it. You need to stay calm, figure out how the fire started, take a step back, assess the situation, and figure out, saying, how to put it out. Because on the business side, you're constantly putting fires out. You are a fireman. That's what it is. It's not peaches and cream. It's not rainbow farts and sprinkle covered ice cream. That's not what it is. It's hell. But it can be beautiful. I swear to God, it can. But a lot of times, you're a fireman, and you are constantly correcting issues and diverting situations to try to get a goal accomplished or get things done that need to be done for that day. So stay calm and assess the problem. And saying, don't make the problem the problem. You need to have a resolution. You need to have one quickly.
That's not a fact.
To kind of compound on a lot of things that were being said, I want to just add a little bit of sauce to those ribs real quick.
Mm-hmm.
When you have mentorship, utilize your mentorship to mitigate circumstances, because your mentors have already been where you are. So when you run into crossroads, they will be the ones most qualified to say, have you tried this? You tried this? Have you tried this? You tried this? Try this out. See how that works out for you. If that doesn't work, come back, try this. Also, having resources such as people who know and understand certain facets of business, who understand certain facets of life. Having the right people around you to be able to bounce ideas off of. I think that when it comes down to planning, projecting, or whatever it is that we do, one of the biggest mistakes that we make is that we feel that we have to do it on our own. We feel like we're condemned to having to figure it out by ourselves. And that's where we make a lot of our issues at. Well, that's what a lot of our issues are stemmed from, is that this complex of feeling that, here I go again. Let me go ahead to the drawing board, this, and this. And we come to that realization that it's like, man, if I went to go ask, just to sum it up, if you're going to take the time to acquire a mentor, at what point in time should I be acquiring mentors? Along the way? Should I acquire a mentor before I enter into the situation? When is it most incumbent in me to try to find mentorship?
My mentor kind of just happened. There was no active looking for him. We kind of just met through a situation, and we ended up working together, and then it turned into more than that. So and this is who I'm also working with on the Portillo's project. So it, like I said, it kind of stemmed from a small project, and then it turned into this mentor type of relationship. So I think that if you are going to actively seek out a mentor, then it needs to be someone that I think is in your lane specifically. Uh, you sell blankets, they sell pillows. I think that's kind of still the same type of area. You should find somebody like that if you're actively trying to find someone to help guide you. Otherwise, most of your mentors really is along the way, and they just kind of just fall in your lap and just become that. And sometimes they become that and don't even realize that they're that for you. So I think it's kind of both, like along the way and actively seeking.
What about you, Kadeem?
I think, both what Michael said and before. And I do think that you don't always have to personally know your mentor, because your mentor could be alive, it could be dead. It could be someone that you have seen their path. Like I'm obsessed with Virgil Abloh, like the way he thought, the way he approached things, and he left enough work and enough speeches for me to be able to study him in a way that I can take from and learn. So that's just an example of someone that I would say could be a mentor that's, no longer here. And then, you can find someone while before by chance or by mistake, or someone that you may not even know is your mentor, but they've been working on you because they've seen something in you. And when you finally realize that they've molded you for for a long time, and then you actually realize that, yo, this person is my mentor. So, I think it's a mixture of those things, as well.
That's finally recognizing you in class.
You're right. You don't know what you don't know. And a lot of times we find ourselves in situations to where we're trying to figure things out, but the answers are right there in front of us the whole time. Or people are trying to share information with us, trying to instill something in us, but we're blocking our own blessing, so to speak, by not allowing anything to get in. We're closed fists. We have our minds fixed on something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the next part of competition amongst men that I wanted to talk about. Toxic competitiveness. Since the word toxic is such a popular thing in pop culture these days. Can there be a such thing as toxic competitiveness? And if so, what are some of the traits of that behavior?
I don't know, man. I don't know. To me, like toxic competitiveness is honestly, to me, is kind of being malicious. In some way, shape, form, or fashion, to like, I don't know, physically harm somebody. I guess, I don't know. I have no idea. This is a new word for me. This is a new phrase for me.
Like that.
I don't know. Maybe do the two go together? Maybe you should pull up the definition of
Let's look up toxic.
Yeah,
we already know what.
Let's pull up some definitions, because competitive in itself is like, what are the rules to being competitive? Like, of course, in sports,
depending on you know what I'm saying, what arena you in. If it's war, I mean, I don't think there's a
hockey.
I don't think there is no rules. I mean, yeah, I can.
Hold
I'm not
on,
supposed to slap you in the face with the stick.
Right?
All I get is a 2-minute penalty. But we gonna box.
Hold on. Let's get into these words. Y'all know how I like playing with real definitions. So, according to the dictionary, competitive, relating to or characterized by competition, having a display or having or displaying a strong desire to be more successful than others, as good as or better than others of a comparable nature. That's competitive.
All right.
Look up toxic. Poisonous, related to or caused by poison, harmful or unpleasant in a pervasive or insidious way.
That's what I was saying. So I don't know, man. Toxic competitiveness. Have you watched Cobra Kai?
Yes.
Okay, so do you remember the scene where the other car dealership dude painted a penis on the billboard of dude of I can't think of his name. The one with the crane shit.
I'm familiar.
To me, that's toxic competitiveness where you know what I'm saying, like that's harmful to his reputation, his image, you name it, his business. To me, that's toxic competitiveness.
Okay, so I'm gonna give y'all an example based upon what we're doing out here. Say that
Yeah,
show.
I mean, yeah. In a sense, yeah. That's
I never seen it, so I don't know.
If there was a show dedicated to toxic competitiveness as to what we're talking about, Cobra Kai is it. That is it, and they got seasons of it.
So I'm gonna throw some thoughts. Some thoughts out there. And the reason why I even came up with the concept of toxic competitiveness is because of the fact that I think that this is something that you really have to break down when it comes down to the spirit of competition. Are you willing to cheat your friends to excel yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to screw over your family to propel yourself? Let's look at politics. And Relentless Mikey, you can attest to this. And even you can attest to this, Mike. All these mics can attest to politics. But slander campaigns.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Mudslinging. Is that not toxic competitiveness?
Yeah.
When you are willing to air out somebody's dirty laundry, whether it's true or not, to gain a competitive advantage on somebody, rather than, hey man, what are your policies? Do I agree? Yes or no? So when you are willing to blow up your whole life just to win, that's toxic competitiveness. See, the thing is that
we're breaking it down. We're breaking it down. Okay.
So when we're looking at this and you start asking yourself based on a couple of very simple things, to be competitive means that I'm trying to win. So if the definition of toxic denotes harmful or unpleasant in a pervasive or insidious way, that I'm going out of my way to find a way to win without caring about how it harms you.
Premeditated.
Let's flip side that.
It's premeditated.
Let's flip side that. You are in a company. You have a company. That company is doing very well. This company over here, because you are better with advertising, you have more advertising dollars, you have bigger people behind you, better network, whatever the situation may be, drive that company out of business. Now that company's out of business, that man or that woman is no longer able to feed their family. That person that was running that company, that mom and pop shop, because Walmart came in, now all of a sudden that mom and pop industry is done. Those people can no longer compete with prices, goods, services, or anything like that because the major conglomerate came in and just wiped them out. Is that toxic competitiveness by definition?
Capitalism.
No, I'm gonna say no.
What's the differences between this? Because I knew when I moved into that area that it would bring harm to the mom and pop industry. Put something in your mind, didn't I?
I want to just say it's capitalism, but I guess when it's personal, like me saying like, hey, like I'm talking to, like Pillow, like for example, Pillow Talk, like nah, don't mess with him over there. He's bad. Just making up stuff in regards to you as your business. I don't know. I guess it's on a personal level, it could be toxic, but I get what you're saying. I guess I got.
I'm gonna stand behind no, because again, it's not unethical for me to move my business in town. It ain't disrespectful for me to move my business in town. I'm not moving in a whites only establishment, a coloreds only establishment. Like, no, like it's at the end of the day, mom and pop got to understand that they still a business and you still got to compete. Whether it's a bigger shark or a smaller shark, it don't matter. It's still a fight. But I don't think that a business moving in town, like their whole goal, like I can't speak for every business. I know that I'm not going to put a business in town for the sole purpose of knocking down the mom and pop. No. I'm trying to add resources.
But I get what you're saying, but like a big company like Walmart or these big tycoons, they understand the market that they're moving into, and
they got a whole entire
that's something that they have to
geographic
they do think about it. They do think about what's going to be the effect of them moving in there. So I do think to some extent there's someone that's in the boardroom like, hey, who cares?
I think these
big go and cut a check to those people. I don't think it's hey, we're gonna be moving in.
Right.
We know,
right,
so
Mikey.
it is some type of unethics, to it. So it's
I don't know.
Especially in Black communities. Like if we're talking about the neighborhoods we live in, when we have these little small stores and then a big company comes in, they can only know that it's going to affect the smaller stores in the area.
Well, realistically, you have to understand that
I honestly don't care if it affects the smaller stores in the area because we don't own them. So I don't care. But
is a thought. Most of the United States is still mom and pop small businesses.
For sure.
You see, those people who come from the Northeast have a statistical advantage and a statistical disadvantage because you guys come from a conglomerate area, a tri-state, a multi-city conglomerate area, to where you have the gift of being able to just go and do. So you can go from here to Jersey to Philadelphia to Delaware and it's just this, just an expressway. You see, we come from a massive megalopolis in the middle of the country. But as soon as you go this way, or this way, there's nothing for the next 4 hours. So we got a chance, once we ventured out of the major city, to see what's going on in the middle of the state of Illinois. And we could see the effects of what the Walmarts and the super chains do to the mom and pop establishments. Whereas you in New York City, you have some of everything because some of everybody is there. You can't put a Walmart dead smack in the center of Times Square. It just ain't gonna happen.
Right.
But then again, if they could find a way, they would. But then I can get on
I
the train.
would.
But then if I can get on the train and go to Jersey, a 20-minute train ride to Jersey to go to Walmart, carry my bags back on the train, and I can be right back over here. To me, it's the same thing.
Let me get back to my point. So, again, it's not unethical and disrespectful and all this other negative word that you can put there to move a so-called tycoon establishment in there. And to Kadeem's point, yes, they do have these geographical teams, these marketing teams, these surveillance, whatever you want to call it, that's looking over the economic foundation of the area where they want to go. So I think what they're mainly looking for when they move into an area is mainly two big things. One, how many people are there that we can employ, because we need to fill our shelves and keep our shelves filled. How many jobs can we supply? Because if we can supply an X amount of jobs or whatever, we're going to get an incentive from the city, or we're going to get an incentive from the state or whatever for putting people to work. Two, profit. How many people can we employ? What's going to be our kickbacks? And what's going to be our profit? I think those are the only two things that they worried about. And most of the time, when you see a tycoon move in and things of that nature, they're kind of like more in a designated like business zone. Like you're not finna have a row of houses right here and then some townhomes over here, and then bam, smack dab in the middle, you got a Walmart. That ain't how it works. It's usually more into a district that's zoned for that.
But you don't think sometimes it kicks off like that? Sometimes there's a Walmart smack dab in the area, and then everything else builds up around it. You know,
maybe.
All right. So for the sake of moving the conversation along, we have varying points of view as far as how we consider competition in a negative light. So obviously, we know what the benefits are of competition, the positive light, but just name one thing that you guys pinpoint about the positive nature of competitiveness and how it plays out in everyday life.
I think that positive competition, I believe that it builds your ability to strategize, to and I think that's the biggest thing. It builds your ability to be able to strategize and to pivot when things I guess go wrong, or trying to capture traction from the public and other businesses, things of that nature.
okay.
What about you, Kadeem?
It was similar to what I was gonna say. I was gonna say it keeps you on your toes, which is kind of the same thing. But also it allows you to be innovative in your thoughts,
Yes.
which is kind of I think it's all kind of the same thing, but it allows you to dig a little deeper and see how you can improve or do something differently, so it's like a kickback, like a back and forth thing. Because if I come up with something that's he didn't think about, and he see that, take from that, and then come up with something else, so next person it just keeps going. I think so. I think that's the positive part about it.
The most positive part of competition I see is the fact that the consumer always wins. So when you look at it, and we're just using an example like the cell phone industry, obviously you go from the place to where you had pagers, and from pagers to minute phones and car phones and other stuff like that. Then you go to where free after 9 and then free after 7, and then it's like you have games on the Nokia.
So race to the bottom.
I mean, it's always going to. For the fact that we lived in such an interesting time to where we saw the SkyTel 2-ways come in, and we saw the PrimeCo cell phones, to where it's just this little cell phone doesn't have a call ID. We saw call ID come in. We saw the evolution of the house phone to the cordless phones. We saw a myriad of different innovations that happened with the telecommunications industry.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when like wireless internet, you had to go to like Verizon or Sprint or somewhere and go get a wireless card with its own modem built into it to access the internet on the go, which was traditionally for people who had business plans. You know, so it's like, I remember when the first color phone Nokia came out, you know, when the first ringtone that you could hear audio on, and it's like, oh, okay, I can get this little dee.
You can create your own and all that, man. Yeah.
You know, and so now for us to be at the place to where Samsung and Apple are the two major surviving competitors in that space is amazing when you understand how far they've traveled. And then you think about the big three cell phone companies, T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T, whereas you had Cingular Wireless back in the day, US Cellular, Sprint, before Boost came, you had Nextel, you had so many different companies, and then the mergers, and then the mergers and acquisitions that brought these things into place. I remember a phone company called Amped Mobile, remember
Virgin Mobile, yeah.
You know, so you
Sir Branson.
Yeah, long before Metro PCS or Simple Mobile and these guys came out. So you can remember a time, and this is why history is so important, but the history of competitiveness as far as what they innovate is the fact that no matter what happens at the end of the innovation, the consumer always wins, except when monopolies are formed. Because once a conglomerate has majority market share, they can do what they want, and there's no benefit to the consumer whatsoever because there's no competition to vary. So, for instance, let's look at the hair care market. For a lot of people who are trying to get into the hair care market, having access to the resources and access to the hair, the whatever have you, there's communities that have strongholds over the products. And whereas they'll give them to these people for a discounted rate, they'll give them to you at wholesale or give them to you at market rate. And then you have to mark them up to make a profit. Whereas if I go to this store, I can go and get it for $5. While I go to you, I can get it for $10.99. Well, I'm not going to pay you $10.99 for the same product. I can go over here and go get for half the price. So that's where you can vary out the differences in the toxic behalf and the non-toxic behalf. So the spirit of competition can only exist where there's a fair exchange. Where there is no fair exchange and where somebody has majority market share, they have access to a specific thing, there's absolutely no way for the consumer to win at that point. So if you think about it like YouTube's algorithm, they gave the secret to the algorithm to the top 5 YouTubers and nobody else knows about it. That's how it happens. So no matter what it is that you do to try to, you have to slip, fall, and land on a good algorithm in the social media space. But these guys, they just got it. They got access to it. They're going to get all the advertising money. They're going to get everything. And you're going to struggle.
All right.
So for the sake of the conversation, guys, we're going to come to a conclusion of today's podcast. I want to know from you guys, what do we discuss? Recap. Let me know what you got out of this today. Anybody can go.
Definitely toxic competitiveness. Like I said, that's a brand new term, and to break down an understanding of that. If anybody else out there in the universe uses the term toxic competitiveness, toxic whatever, You heard it here from Extraordinary Men first. We coined that word. That's our word, and we gave our own definition to it. That's my
phrase in a word, but I get you.
But yeah, I think that really thoroughly understanding like what your why is. I think that's what I really got out of it. Like what is your why to the moves that you're trying to do and the goals that you're trying to reach and achieve. And I think that if you can stay focused on that why, you're not going to have any issues. And I think that standing strong in your goal, minus, and it's going to happen, you know, especially when it comes to family. I'm being real. And it's very rare that a family will help, is to show support, to help you to where you're trying to go, or you know, give any type of support at all. And as long as you can, you know, keep that why in mind, you know, you're gonna be fine, because it's not gonna bother you that no one is around. And eventually when you blow, then it's gonna be, well, I knew you was gonna make it this whole time, and da 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 da, and insert whatever BS here. So just stay focused. Don't let go of the why.
Kadeem?
I learned how closely competitiveness is a part of our day-to-day life. You know, when you're in it, I don't think you see it that way. You know, even though I consider myself a competitive person, I don't look at it from a zoomed out perspective all the time. So bringing these new terms to the table definitely, you know, allowed me to kind of see it, you know, a little differently. And I can kind of hone in on why I'm so competitive. And, you know, I think with that, it definitely can propel me much more, as far as, you know, like what Mike said, the whys. It definitely all makes sense. And you don't think about the competitive nature in businesses that we grew up around. Like you don't fully think about it because we're in it. Like, so I just think the conversation allowed me to just kind of zoom out on everything. So I think I'll have a different perspective on the competitiveness of businesses and business, you know. So I think that was a cool takeaway for me.
As always, when you get a chance to collectively share information amongst a group, you always get a better product than when you're just sitting back thinking about it on your own. And as much as I enjoy coming up with concepts and thoughts like this, the expansion of thoughts and progress can only manifest, you know how I love that word, but it can only truly manifest through a collective. And by being a part of this collective and forming this collective and having you guys show up to share your experiences and share your conversations, you not only do something for me by giving me additional feedback on what it is that we're doing, you also show people that, number one, we as men can come together for a common understanding. And number two is the fact that more is better. More is better. As a community, we do much better collectively. And we need to maintain the community aspect of growing and building and adding on. Speaking of growing, building, and adding on, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel just yet, or if you're not a part of the Facebook group for the Extraordinary Men, in the chat box, I have included the YouTube channel. so that you guys can follow along. And then also for all those members who are on Facebook, I'm going to include the Extraordinary Men Facebook page so you guys can chime in at any moment's notice. We would appreciate all participation. Oh yeah, shameless plug time, baby. That's what we do.
Before and after.
Like, share, subscribe, click the bell.
Make sure
Tap
you
in.
guys get a chance to chime in on what you see. We appreciate the fact that you guys spent any time with us at all, because you could be doing anything else on a Tuesday evening, but you decided you want to spend it with us. Is there any last words for anybody in the panel?
Yes. Last words is we really appreciate it if you guys can help us really blow this thing up. We are doing a 30-day challenge. We are looking for 1,000 subscribers in 30 days. And so we're really hoping that you guys, if you like what you see so far, what you've heard so far in the past 3 episodes, please tap in, tell a neighbor, tell an uncle, tell whoever to tap in and help us achieve this goal. We're also looking for 4,000 watched hours. So please help us grow the channel.
Yes, sir.
Kadeem?
You know, I'm a man of a few words. I won't stuff you, though.
Well,
You
use
guys
a few more.
tested it all. Now, y'all tune into the Extraordinary Man. I want to let you guys know we will soon have merch coming real soon. So, you know, I know we all got on our own gear right now, but you know, eventually, you know, we're gonna have the merch for you guys, and it'll be available. So stay tuned for that, and tune in to next week. We'll be back on here 8 p.m. sharp.
7 p.m. Central Time for those that are
7
not
p.m. Central Time.
Yes, sir.
5 p.m. on the West Coast.
See, that's why that man's the host. You see that man right there? That's, you know.
I'm just the guy that pays for the subscription service. So, anyway, thank you guys for y'all time this evening. Love, peace, share, like, subscribe, the whole 9. Also, final words from Relentless Mikey. Final words: be as you are.
I like that.
But strive to be better. All right, guys.
All right.
All right. Good night.